Welcome back to CareerNet Prism's DEI-LOGS, a podcast where we discuss all things diversity and inclusion with D&I champions across sectors and industries. Today we have with us the multi-talented Kafeel Jafri. He's a DEI facilitator, a Posh trainer, a storyteller, theatre artist, and much more. Kafeel has earned his MBA from XIME and worked for 6 years in the BFSI sector before deciding to follow his passion in the D&I field. He has worked as a DEI facilitator for clients like Merck, Cipla, Barclays, Flipkart, and many more. So welcome Kafeel. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me here.
First thing first, I see you have done your MBA from XIME. Then you have had 6 years of experience in banking as well. Mm-hmm. So how has that journey been like, and what prompted such a significant shift from banking to D&I training space, that to theatre and storytelling based?
Yeah, so the change hasn't been sudden. It has always been a gradual change. Mm-hmm. Where in my school days, I wanted to be actor.
Okay.
But I'll share both personal and professional. And again, it mixes. Personal is professional and personal is also, part of what are you in your workplace.
Of course.
So I wanted to be an actor in my school days, but looking at different Hollywood and Bollywood actors. But
who were your favorites?
At that time, Arnold Schwarzenegger used to be one, Tom Hanks, Daniel Day-Lewis, and at home, Hrithik, SRK, of course. But of course, that changed later on when I started doing theatre. When I did my MBA from XIME Bangalore, I did that during 2008 to 10. And after I finished my MBA, I started doing, in fact, in the last year of college, I started modeling ramp walk. Because I was told that was one way of going into acting. Okay. But yes, in 2012, I was exposed to theatre, and I saw the first production of theatre, and I was like, the joy that people expressed, the actors had, and the connection with the immediate connection with the audience, that really attracted me, and I contacted the production house that was doing that play, and I joined their workshop, and I realized that the kind of piece, the kind of expressive, creative and expressive, liberty that you get there, and the joy that you get out of it.
And nothing can be.
Yeah, that is all I wanted. So and I kept, working in IndusInd Bank, and later on there was a project management firm, and then I started my own investment banking firm along with a couple of other people. But yeah, later on it became a little too much, and I was too involved in theatre and Daastango. And Daastango is a art form where we tell stories in Hindustani. That is Urdu-Hindi mixture.
Okay.
And it has a lot of, fantasy and magic stories. So I started doing it almost every weekend during that time. And after a point of time, I thought that now is the right time to make the complete shift. And for a long time, I was doing just theatre and Daastango. But to be very honest, there are two things that have to be told here. One is to not just be a part of creative industry or community, but also be a part of, change in the corporate industry as well. I also wanted to be there. But when I came across a program where I was hired as an actor, so this is not something that I have started, I'll be very honest about that.
There are few people.
There are many people who have been doing, and it started with America and Britain, and then it came to India. My mentor and good friend Aruna was the one who started, who asked me to be a part of one such session. And I really liked the concept, and I found that the usual conventional way of presenting or conveying ideas through PowerPoint, etc., was might not be
Getting a little too old school.
Might not be that impactful at all, as a lot of people might realize in corporate
It's
world.
not as engaging.
It's not engaging
Yeah.
most of the times. So, whereas when you have to convey some very important messages like D&I, which has a lot to do with culture change and also fostering culture in workplace, it has to be done in a way that that engages people, forces people to think. So that's how, and it had happened over a period of 4 to 6 years. So
So a lot of people, even though you said that this has been happening for a while, I don't think a lot of people would be very familiar with the approach, like as to how this exactly happens. So can you demonstrate for us a little bit, like how exactly do you incorporate storytelling and theater with D&I training?
storytelling in the sense that so I'll give you an example right away. So when we talk about, for example, including women in workplace, especially at a place where conventionally there haven't been women, for example, in production floor, there will be challenges in the sense that people are not used to women working with women, and by people I mean mostly men who are used to claiming the space as their own, right? So to make people realize that, we have to go back to our beginning of life, in the sense, not like Big Bang Theory or something, but in the sense that things that we all have noticed. Why is it that what kind of conditionings are there that are
What
put in our
conscious and
hand?
unconscious biases are
Conscious and unconscious biases, gender roles, and hence discrimination, conscious or unconscious. For example, there is a timeline of conditioning. This one act that I developed to convey this thing, where I talk about when a child is born. If that child is a boy, there's a lot of happiness and a lot of laddu distribution and all. And we are talking about India. I'm very specifically talking about my own country where I'm staying. So the celebration of the birth of a boy child is much more than
Grand,
a girl child.
yeah.
In fact, birth of a girl child is often looked upon as something tragic. Still, even today, right? Subtly or directly, it can be.
Even like
either.
a girl is born, they always have to console the person, saying,
okay,
Lakshmi
next
aayi
time.
hai.
Next time.
The goddess of wealth has come to your house.
Yeah.
Why is there the need to, give someone that consolation prize that, oh, don't worry.
Yeah. So that is one, and so when we move on in the next, in further in life of a person, we might say them, when guests come, or when you are going to a place where there are kids, if there is a boy child, you will give them something like toy gun or car, or cricket bat or something like that. Whereas if there's a girl child, you will give them kitchen set or doll, things that are conventionally
masculine or feminine.
Masculine or feminine, or rather there is a gender role that is already defined, and your gifts are also shaped as per that. And then you move ahead in life, and then the education comes, and the intention of education for a lot of parents, when it comes to boy child, is about making them able enough to stand on their own feet financially. Whereas for women, it's more about you have to study because you have to be literate, and not necessarily that you have to be financially independent. And also then we also have things like till what time, what kind of the liberties that a guy involves, that a man or a boy has, whereas the same things that are not applicable to women. And these all things, when we design a workshop, we talk to the people working in the organization, and take their inputs. And whenever we are presenting this scene, so there will be like 2-3 characters, one one girl child, one boy child, and there are 2 people coming, 2 other characters coming and saying, hello beta, how are you, kya banogi, doctor banogi, kya khaogi, वगैरह वगैरह, and then to the girl child they'll say, oh kitni pari lag rahi hai, looks like a doll, and so it's even the handling of a girl child and a boy child is very different. Boy child is thrown up in the air, where girl child is
coddled
and So those are the things that we show, and we show not by saying, not by telling, but by doing. So what the audience is watching is something that they have seen around them in some form or the other, and we try to keep the language very universal, or at least inclusive in the terms that nobody in the audience says that they didn't understand what is being said. So it's either English or the local language where we are doing the presentation. So till now we have done in English, Hindi, Marathi, Gujarati, Kannada as well. So yeah, that's a small thing, and
example of how it works.
Yeah, how it works. And sometimes in terms of storytelling, for example, I begin the session by telling the story of I'll tell the story. So it was 1996 when India was playing against Sri Lanka, and Sri Lankan innings ended first, and the Indian opener which came to bat for India, that batter continued by the end of the innings till the team India won. And when the match was won by India, there was one record that was made that day, that record still holds, and that was the youngest cricketer to score a century. And that record is still there in any format of the game. And when I ask can you tell me who is this cricketer?
I know, but I would like you to tell me what are some typical answers that you get.
So mostly people reply, Virendra Sehwag, or Sachin Tendulkar or Virat Kohli. But when I tell them, it's Mithali Raj, it's kind of a moment. Oh.
So they haven't even considered the possibility.
Didn't even consider the possibility that it could be a woman cricketer. And I did not mention he or she or women's cricket or men's cricket.
It's there in the mind already.
It's there in the mind because in the popular culture you are always bombarded by these things. For example, we lost the World Cup recently, men's cricket, and still it hurts, but we don't seem to celebrate the Asian Trophy win by our countries. Asian Trophy hockey being won by our women's cricket hockey team earlier in November. So that is also there because whenever a woman plays games that are conventionally associated with men, it's looked down upon or discouraged by the guardians themselves or parents themselves. So these are the things that we present in terms of making people realize that yes, we all have that gender bias within us, and then we go on to tell how this gender bias acts out or manifests itself within the workplace. So yeah, then there are again specific scenarios designed around the interviews that people have given within the company. And
this was like more in a general terms. Let's say in a corporate
setup
space. So how do we build inclusive workplaces? So basically, what's your approach in training to address the issues that are there in corporate regarding people having gender bias, that kind of issues? So any example of that, like, how do you convey that to a set of people who are just sitting there who don't even know maybe that they have a lot of unconscious bias towards their female colleagues?
We have certain, of course, there are a lot of common things in all companies, but there are some specific ones as well that come across or come out when you talk to the HR or team leaders in different organizations. But A majority of it is very common across. For example, you might notice that on birthdays, or some offices have culture of celebrating weekly birthdays of everyone who has birthdays on those week in that week. Some people have it. Some organizations have it every day during lunchtime. But if you notice, most of the times the person who arranges for the cake and cuts it and distributes it to the people are mostly women who do it. And this is called office housework. That the work that you associate with one gender at home is also inadvertently
the same thing that you're
being
doing
done
to them at office.
in the office. So that is one. Then there is life stage. So when a woman is hired in a company, many times the interviewer, although it is wrong to ask, but they inadvertently start to ask about what are the plans for marriage, and if the person is married already, they will ask if there are any plans for kids, because in their mind they are thinking about when will this person not be available to do work, whereas the idea is to include the life stages as a part of a person's existence
journey
and being
within the workspace as well.
So and similar with elder care responsibilities. So we open the discussions with these drama sketches within the workplace, and the 2 or 3 actors play this scenario, and then we open the discussion, and then more cases come up. Some people say, no, this is very rarely this happens. Hamare organization mein there is no gender bias, etc., etc. But of course, there's always subtle things that only the people who are facing it will be able to tell. For example, in terms of inclusion of LGBTQIA plus community, there's still a lot of resistance from the mainstream workforce.
Cis-het people.
Yeah, and they don't even want to talk about it. And the idea is to start a discussion.
The entire, like even the thought of starting that, and I'm telling this from personal experience, even the thought of starting that conversation within workplaces somehow makes people uncomfortable.
Yeah,
like even in DNI spaces, I've seen this a lot. That as long as you're talking about DNI for PWDs or DNI for women, it's all fine and dandy. But the moment you start talking about inclusion of LGBTQIA plus community, then it makes people uncomfortable somehow.
Quite uncomfortable. And that's what we have to understand, that when people come together at a workplace towards a common goal, working towards a common goal, what matters is a person's skills and also the view of the world, perspectives that they bring to the table, and it doesn't matter whom they choose to spend their life with. Earlier it was so that you can ignore that, you can be blind to as it is in the in the race discussion, racial diversity discussion, that I don't see color. No, that is not the point, that you don't see color. You see the color as diverse as possible and accept everyone as they are. And that's the point in gender discussion as well, that it doesn't matter who is of what sexual orientation or of what gender identity. The idea is that the person who is being hired to work in an organization should feel completely themselves and should feel seen completely, right? So that they are able to work comfortably in a workspace and they can fully express themselves both professionally and creatively. And of course, the perspectives also come if there is only one kind of people working towards a common goal of the organization.
Then that's,
the multiple perspectives
not
will
inclusion, of course, in its own.
Not just inclusion from the business sense point of view. The customers of the product and services that the companies are making, they are diverse.
Of course.
Right? So before selling the product to a person, nobody is asked, who are you, whether you are man, woman, or what's your sexual identity or gender identity, etc. So in making and delivering of those services, it's important that there should be as diverse workforce be involved in the production of those services and products as the customers
Since you're
are.
catering to diverse people,
Yes,
why
so
not?
you should be also diverse as well, ideally. Those are certain considerations.
Okay, so you have done drama-based workshops for many industry leaders like L&T, Flipkart, Nivea, Barclays. How has the response and the impact been so far to this particularly new approach? I'm specifically talking about the Indian workspaces.
So there are two ways to answer that, or rather two parts to that answer. One is philosophical and socio-philosophical, and second is practical. Socio-philosophical in the sense that when you are talking about culture and mentality change, it is rather foolish to assume that one workshop can do that, or sometimes I feel that even a lifetime of one person can bring about that change, or rather that person can see that change, because it's a generational thing as well.
Of course.
So whenever we design and deliver a workshop, it's always from the point of view of planting a seed in people's mind to start a discussion, to start looking at the world in a more open and inclusive way. Of course, there are resistance in the starting with some people. Some people relate to it a lot, and across genders and identities, various identities. I'm not talking about just men or women.
Everyone has their own share of biases.
Yeah,
of course.
Yeah, but that is the socio-philosophical part, that the cultural change takes time and it might not be measured immediately. But at the same time, one of the things that could be measured, of course, everything can be measured quantitatively, if you believe statisticians and data scientists. But the incidents and the communications to HR representatives of the organization, team leaders of the organizations, if there is a consistent communication with the leaders and HRs of the companies, you may notice a change about how people's behavior at workplace is changing. So that is one way of talking about it and finding about the impact. But of course, at the end of the session, we also take feedbacks. We also are now using some online polling tools that people can do on their phone while it is being also projected. The results are being projected on screen. So the engagement and hence the impact can both be measured in some way. At least if the intent is to start a discussion, then it is quite a successful workshop series that I have done until now. Most of the sessions have been quite engaging, but immediate impact might not be there, or might not be measurable, at least in terms of giving a test. For example, if I have to teach
of course, it's not something that can be immediately quantified.
It's behavioral more than technical.
Since you talked about metrics and quantifying the results, so there has to be, because you are doing it for corporates, there must be some kind of metric that you also, some kind of standards that you hold yourself to understand what has been the results so far, right? So what are the metrics that you look at to decide whether this has been successful, or like this, because it's a fairly new approach. So I believe this the success metrics also would be evolving as of now. But what are some of your personal success metrics that you think, okay, this happened, so I believe that this workshop was a good one, like I did something.
So like I just said some time back, that when you are changing, when you're trying to inculcate new culture, when you're trying to foster new culture or a cultural change, it's imperative to know that the people who are truly inclusive are very small minority. The mainstream still is biased towards one group or the other, right? So in workshops where people open up after
that's
watching,
a good sign.
where people start to say things, say even if it means saying something negative about what you're doing, what we are doing as presenters or facilitators or actors, that is okay. But at least a dialogue has been started.
Has been started.
And because of that, speaking up, we are also able to answer questions. Unless the discussion is not started, unless a question is not asked, the answers will not come, and the following questions will not come, and the following answers will not come, which will eventually, if all this happens, it will eventually take people towards knowing better and towards creating more inclusive workplace.
Very well said. So now, can you share a personal story or anecdote that has had a significant effect on your approach of towards drama storytelling or D&I in general?
Yeah, so initially I used to have this when I started doing it in 2019, 18, 19 sometime. My idea was to, you have to do some scenes, and actors will do a couple of scenes or tell a story, and then we'll go to audience, and then we'll get some questions answered, surveys answered, etc., etc. And like that it'll happen. But one particular thing happened in one of the pharma companies, where production plant of a pharma company, where I was taking a workshop, and as has been the convention, production plants have predominantly men working there, right?
Yes.
And similarly, in the various team leaders that were there in the hall of 100 people capacity, about 94 people were men, right? And the rest were women, out of which 2 were from our team and 2 were from HR.
Oh.
So ideally, just 2 women who were not part of, who were part of
the organization itself.
They were working there. So when we were talking about hiring more women in the workplace, one very senior gentleman seemed to sort of lose it.
Okay.
And he said as a joke, as a lot of
as a lot of people do, like it always comes disguised as a joke.
Yeah, as a light comment. He jokingly said that yes, one day will come when in offices only women will be working and we'll be at home peeling potatoes. And given the authority and also the majority being men there, the entire room of 100 people burst into laughter. Yeah, they burst into laughter. And my co-facilitator wanted to say something, but I took it on myself. I said, let me take this. And immediately something just my mind threw. This quote that I had read long back was that if you are accustomed to privilege, equality feels like oppression. And the gentleman given his seniority, I just left it there, saying that it does mean something and I want you to reflect on that. And then onwards, my way of looking at drama-based training was about that this form of training is about breaking barriers and letting people start to talk, express themselves in a safe space. So first you have to create that safe space, that this is a place where you can express yourself. You can ask questions, you can register your objections if there are any, and then we will take it from there. But it's a good start.
I mean, you do see that, however condescending that remark must have been, that I feel is still better than nothing, because at least you get to know that
what is going on.
What are the challenges that you would have to focus on going forward? Right.
Yes, so as I said, in the mainstream, the so-called woke public who understands these nuances and who people who want to be really meaningfully inclusive, they are a minority within a minority. They are a very small minority. The mainstream still holds those gender roles and conditioning that society imposes on us. But when people come into workplaces and see people from all walks of life, diverse people putting in different kinds of efforts, they do start to change. And it's important to initiate that discussion and also, steer it towards a more inclusive talk or more inclusive messaging. So yeah, that was one, and yeah, there are multiple more options. For example, right from childhood, I had this questioning at my home itself that why should women of the house eat after men?
The men.
Right? So, and it consciously, unconsciously, or because of laziness, or all of them combined, I started having food or dinner with my sister and mother, and slowly the change was that we all started having food together. Now, can I claim that this change was brought about by just me? I cannot, because it's not just my journey, it's everyone else's journey. But sometimes the unsaid has to be said.
Has to be said out loud.
Some things that are going on in people's mind, it has to be said so that they can be, the discourse can,
the conversation cannot be one-sided, basically.
So that the discourse can be taken forward. One question or objection comes, then its reply comes, and then the next question comes, and that's how discourse goes forward. So yeah.
Now that we're talking about conversations in D&I, are there some conversations that should be happening in the D&I spaces but are not getting enough attention as of now?
Yeah, so there are two things. One is that a lot of companies and organizations tend to do it as something that needs to be just checked in the box.
As a token.
Right? As a token. Whereas some organizations are doing it very meaningfully, with very good intentions. That is one aspect of it. And second is that until like 2-3 years back, the discussion was more about getting more women in the workplace. And now it's also about, along with women, about LGBTQI plus community members.
PWDs, the
neurodivergent community or people. But still, I feel in Indian context, I feel things that are part of mainstream thought process should be there. For example, ethnicity, region, caste, religion.
So this has been a very a topic of conversation within our D&I team, that when we talk about D&I, most of it is in context of Western definition of it itself. But in Indian spaces, it has to be a more diverse conversation within D&I spaces as well, because we have a lot more diversities than it is generally perceived. We have got races, we've got ethnicities, we have got regional differences,
languages.
Then we have got language issues, we have got sects within the religions as well. So there's just a lot more that has to be talked about.
Yes, and so the import of feminism from West has this, issue that it has not yet been completely contextualized to India.
Yes.
Right? So, whereas if you look at society and then compare it with the workplace, I think conversations around, caste differences, religious beliefs differences should be talked about region. For example, in Bangalore, for example, we have in offices people working from all regions in the country, east, west, north, south, everywhere. And sometimes there are issues within the teams because of these differences. So how do we bring people to a place where we respect the differences and appreciate the similarities. Because ultimately we also have to understand that we all come from a place where English is not the first language.
Of course.
So if we talk about accents, there will be a regional touch to everybody's accents. So can we judge people based on that? Being a person for whom English is second language, not the first language. That is something to think about. And as I said, many times different in-groups are formed because of these affinities. That if I feel that I am a Hindi-speaking person and there are like 5 other people in the team, in the team of let's say 20 people, there are 5 other people who speak Hindi, I might tend to gel more with those Hindi speakers and more than other people.
That is also one form of a bias only.
It becomes and very unconsciously it becomes an unfair behavior towards the people who are not as
similar to us as we would like them to be.
And same for, I just gave an example of Hindi because I am a Hindi speaker, but same for any other languages. So we have to understand that we all have similarities, we all have common things to connect on, and the issues which are there in society should also be talked about, and people should be brought on the same page of inclusion and of the same, respecting the differences and appreciating the similarities and working towards a common goal with that lens.
So what role do you think art and artistic expressions can play in building inclusive workspaces?
So arts, if you see, it's not literal. It always evokes emotions. It appeals to emotions. It connects with people through emotions, which is why it is important to use arts. Whether you take any movement in the human history itself, you will see that songs and music and dance and storytelling and drama, these things have brought more people together as compared to just writing something in paper, for example. So I think because of that, we should, the arts, I won't say have a responsibility, but it can always be a tool to unite people because it appeals to the common emotions that we all have.
Very well said. So now we are going to move forward to the rapid fire round.
This is a rapid fire round. Okay.
You can give one word answers. You can elaborate your answers a little bit. It's not hard and fast rule that it has to be rapid fire. So tea or coffee?
Tea in the morning and evening, coffee at noon.
Okay. Favorite author?
Lots. Oh my God. Bell Hooks, Angela Davis, Noam Chomsky, Reza Aslan, Leslie Hazleton, many more, Salman Rushdie, a lot of, yeah.
Okay, so one word to describe your training style.
Fun.
I can see that, yes. First thing you do in the morning?
I wake up, but first thing, I sit quietly for some time, just living in the horizon.
Digital books or paperbacks?
Paperbacks for sure. I'm old school in that sense.
Let's tweak that question. Let's say digital books or paperbacks or audiobooks? Paperback.
Always.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go to comfort food?
Anything that I can make quickly or my partner can make quickly. Yeah.
Okay. Pet parent or plant parent?
Pet parent.
Top 3 must-have items in your training toolkit?
Depends on what we are doing, but yeah, there are many tools that we use. For example, masks, depicting different emotions and personalities. Costumes like blazers or different kind of dupatta or stole or shawl, and fake mustache, for example.
That's
to
interesting.
Depict different characters. So yeah, depends on what we are doing a lot. It's very subjective.
So there is no top 3?
No top 3, yeah, as such.
Okay. Favorite app on your phone?
Favorite app on my phone? I think Alarm. But yeah, I'm not. I find smartphone to be.
Does that count as an app, the alarm?
I mean, if you compare it with a person going door to door saying, "Jai, it's morning, wake up." I mean, of course, yes, it is.
Okay. So, favorite diversity-related quote or mantra?
There are two. As I said, one is that when we are accustomed to privilege, equality feels like oppression. And there is another Urdu couplet. I am not sure who's the poet. It's definitely not mine. And it is that चमन में इख्तिलाते रंग बू से बात बनती है. चमन में इख्तिलाते रंग बू से बात बनती है. हम ही हम हैं तो क्या हम हैं, तुम ही तुम हो तो क्या तुम हो. Which is that in a garden, it's the mixture of colors and smells which makes the garden what it is. If one says that it will only be us and not the other, then what's the point of that garden?
That's amazing. I guess like that sums up the entire concept of diversity and inclusion in 2 lines. Thank you so much, Kafeel. We are done here.
Thank you so much.
Thanks
for
a
having me.
lot for your time, and it was really nice talking to you.
Same here.